So the finishing details on the head and arm, guys. A lot of people get to this spot and then they wind up just squeezing, and then they lose the position. I generally finish this with just one arm. I want my middle finger and my elbow flat on the mat, and I want my head in the mat north of my hand. I'll put my right hand on the mat, and I want it in line with all four shoulders. The purpose of the right hand is to continue to drive myself into my opponent, so I don't just use my head here and screw my neck all up, right? I want to be hugging Sean's neck with my bicep. My bicep cuts off the blood supply over here. His shoulder cuts off the blood supply on the near side. I don't want my hips off the mat. I want my hips to be dead weight like I'm in a prone position shooting a rifle. My toes are live and my hands are live. That's it. The tiny little detail at the end I make is I look into my opponent's ear. It tilts my head just enough to add enough pressure to get the submission here. Lots of times when you get into this spot, your left hand is not flat on the mat, and this gives your opponent lots of room to work. So instead of trying to squeeze here, my right hand's a post, my forehead's on the mat. I'll drive and roll my opponent up onto his opposite side hip. And here I start to spider walk my left hand, and now I drop straight down. I don't do this and come back to the same spot that I was in. I will drive up, spider walk, drop straight down. Left knee goes in the hip, look in the ear, and squeeze. If you work against a short clock and you don't have the luxury of time, you might need to add a second hand here. When I add a second hand, I'm going to make a gable grip, and I want to make sure that the clasp is below my chin. I want to make sure that my right elbow points to my belly here, and I want to make sure that the motion I'm making is to squeeze my elbows together flat on the mat, not to squeeze my biceps, right? I'm going to squeeze here. I've got good positioning on my opponent here, but maybe there's only a few seconds left on the clock, so I need to figure something else out. I'll push in, and look, I roll my opponent up. I'm leaning heavy on his tricep, and now my right hand comes in. Outside hand goes palm up. I pull down. I drop my forehead to the mat, and I tuck my right elbow to my belly. I look in the ear, and I'll pull my left elbow to my hip. The finishing motion there is here on the mat, not squeezing like you're flexing your bicep.